For Sunday, April 5th, you found the Georgia Gang. Topping our agenda this day, the General Assembly passes a major transportation measure. At least 2 new cities are possible in Georgia, and the Atlanta teachers in the cheating scandal are jailed. Some of the stories up for grabs on the Georgia Gang.
From the Fox 5 studios, the Georgia Gang starts now.
Good morning, good day. We're glad you could be with us on this Easter Sunday and this weekend of Passover. It is a time the weather has turned. You can drag out the yellow bow tie and all. Phil's wearing his master's tie.
That's right.
I think it's finally spring, at any rate. We should probably begin with the Atlanta teachers cheating scandal, but we're not going to. I want to hold that off for a little bit and start with the General Assembly. And Phil, we talked about it for more than a year, but it happened. They didn't quite raise $1 billion in new taxes and revenues, but $945 million would be a good start toward fixing roads and bridges.
That's right. That, I think, would be the big one that just happened during the session that ended. And, it could go over $1 billion because they have got a provision in there where local entities can raise their own SPLOST-like taxes. So if that happens, you could conceivably get to over $1 billion. That's one of the things. And of course, the major component was the hiking of the gasoline excise tax.
Have you all looked at the condition of the roads in this, even on the highways, the interstates? I mean, they're just crumbling. Yeah. And you have these huge areas, roads where you've got a 70-mile-per-hour speed limit, and you've got 2 inches of missing asphalt. We need, obviously, this $1 billion a year in new revenue just to fix what we already have.
Well, and the bridges are in even worse shape. There's a study this week.
I think, Jeff, you've just hit on, I think, the best messaging that finally turned it around, because obviously it was controversial with a tax hike. But I remember when Insider Advantage did its first poll, it said that the infrastructure and the bridges, that is the message if you're going to resonate with people.
And it certainly seems to have worked, and I hope they will get to fix it right away.
Well, I think the city of Atlanta benefits because, of course, it has done nothing to take care of its own infrastructure. It's going to now, thanks to a bond issue.
Referendum.
Yeah, but they got some of the worst bridges in the whole state of Georgia.
Well, they have some of the oldest.
Expensive.
That's exactly right.
Well, that's right. And so the money was not there, however, for mass transit. Now, that kind of got lost in the shuffle. Yeah. Jeff, you said there were 100 transit systems in the state or something like that? Mm-hmm. And they're not going to get it unless there are bond money, I guess, could be
There's
doled
some bond
out.
money that was there, but MARTA fared better than it has in decades. In this session of the General Assembly, they got that 50-50 split. The requirement that they spend only 50% of the revenue on
operations,
on operations, exactly right, removed. For the first time, they've been trying to do that for years and years and years. Never happened. And there were some other good things in there from
Keith Parker.
Oh, there's absolutely no question about it.
Right.
That's what it's all about.
I think everyone agrees with that.
And part of this bill, inserted this past week out of nowhere, kind of, was a $5 per room hotel motel tax. $5 a room now. Mm-hmm. So even if you're staying at a flop house on Fulton Industrial Boulevard, you're going to pay another $5
I was disappointed.
for your room.
I was disappointed to see that. It only adds about $180 million a year, and you're making a good point. It's going to hurt the mom and pops, the Hiltons and the Marriotts. They can afford to do that. But in South Georgia, and I noticed where the Savannah tourism people and other tourism groups said that, I did hear some legislators say that they're going to tweak this next year.
They might.
And
They might have to. But it seemed to me that the governor was insistent on getting that number, or getting as close to that number, $1 billion, as he possibly could.
Right.
Now, there was an idea floating about giving MARTA communities, that would be Fulton and DeKalb and Atlanta, the option of, and Clayton, the option of going to another half-cent sales tax. That failed, but I guess because there are limits.
Both counties are at their cap already.
That's
so
right.
I never knew why that would fly. Did you see also where the electric car fuel credit is now gone? No.
That's right, and so is Delta Airlines' tax exemption, which ought to be a lesson to Delta Airlines and its chairman, Dick, whatever his name is, Anderson. You want to meddle in politics. You want to meddle in controversial issues. there's a price to be paid, and Delta just paid it with the end of that fuel.
Well, they
injection.
also
It was time. I mean, when Delta was in trouble when the General Assembly did that. I remember Senator Kasim Reed at the time helped them. They were facing bankruptcy when the General Assembly stepped in to help them out. They are not anymore. They're on a solid financial footing, thanks to CEO Richard Anderson, and they should not need those kinds of government subsidies anymore.
Well, I agree with you. One of the problems, too, and you remember the flap that occurred during the session with State Representative Earl Earhart, he said that the lead Delta female lobbyist threatened him and bullied him, and of course, that's not how you run a railroad when you're trying to get something done.
Can a female bully a male?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, dear. Here we go.
Now, Alexis, the budget,
Yes.
the big budget passed without a lot of controversy really this year, certainly less than I've seen in the past. And the state has added $900 million in spending. That means good times are coming again, because this General Assembly, to its credit, has cut the budget the previous 5 years. Cut, actual cuts, not cuts in growth, actual cuts.
Right.
Without raising taxes.
And got efficiencies in government.
And they got efficiencies, that's right. And
Or they got less done. I think it all will come out in the
love
wash.
big government, and I know that
I don't love big
upset you.
government, but I
So
love to have services that work and that are responsive to the citizens.
So what we're talking about here now is $900 million additional dollars in spending for the state, plus $945 million additional dollars in spending for transportation. We haven't seen numbers like that in 5 to 6 ever since Obama became president.
Oh, no.
And in the budget is money for something in Pooler, the famous plant site that could be the site of an automobile manufacturing plant. There was mention that Gulfstream might be able to have a training facility there. I think a car company is close to coming to Pooler finally, which was Roy Barnes's dream 12 years ago?
Was it Roy Barnes or was it Sonny Purdue? One of them. But
No, it was Barnes, remember?
It was Roy Barnes.
He lost it during his re-election
It was a
campaign.
long time ago, and that land still sits idle.
Yeah.
I think it's good that they've set aside a pool of money, whether it's for Pooler or somewhere
Right.
else for these industries.
Well, they're talking about Volvo, right?
They're talking about Volvo. That's correct. Roy Barnes was talking about Mercedes and Sprinter vans, their brand of vans. That was a long time ago. Big raises for judges, and I've got some questions about it because state employees are getting what, a 1% pay raise? The judges are all getting pretty big raises, and you know, some people voted against that because when you raise judges' salaries, you raise the salaries of local officials. It's kind of like a train, and a judge's pay raise automatically triggers raises for local officials. We'll have to see how that
It
works
could,
out.
because a lot of localities, as you know, they give supplements to
Right.
what the regular pay is, and a county doesn't have to give supplements if they don't want to.
Why are the judges paid so highly in Savannah? I don't know. That came up, and I didn't have a chance to look into that.
Well, I think a lot of these judges hadn't had a pay raise since 1993. That was the big bone of
Right,
contention.
and I think also some of it is equity pay raises too.
That's right.
That because the salaries had not been adjusted in such a long time.
But teacher pay raises remain a function of the local school board's willingness to do it, or ability to do it.
Right.
Ability
Correct?
to do it exactly right. And we
Right.
saw some
And
movement there in DeKalb County.
the story we talked about so much on this broadcast about health insurance for part-time school bus drivers, that's now the province of the local school board if they want to insure them. The state is not going to do it. Now, 2 new cities came out of this General Assembly, possibly. They have to be voted on by the voters. One is La Vista Hills, which was born as Lakeside in DeKalb County, and the other is Tucker. In North DeKalb County. The city of Stonecrest failed, and I thought it was going to pass. As of 5 o'clock on Thursday before they adjourned, I was told that was going to pass. I don't know what happened to it. And nothing happened in South Fulton.
Right.
Because there's competing forces. Some want a city, some want it to be annexed by Atlanta,
Right.
some probably just want to be left alone.
Right. You know, La
Yeah.
Vista Road it just is the boundary between those 2 new cities. That's interesting. North Lake being on one side, and of course Target and those other
I think that they're
businesses
kind
being
of
in Tucker.
splitting it. And then there was some
Well,
controversy
La Vista
over
Road is the split.
a
Yeah, but the-
QT and,
and
a
the
Walmart.
Yeah.
Well,
And then 1,000
well, what happened was
residences
kind of
into
funny.
a
State
whole
Senator Fran Miller insisted on the people of the Livesey precinct in North DeKalb, whom he represents. He wanted them to be in the city of La Vista
La
Hills.
Vista Hills.
So at the 11th hour, He gave Tucker a Walmart and a QT, and he kept the residents.
Yeah.
They
in
kept
La Vista
1,500
Hills.
folks, right?
Yeah, in La
He
Vista
kept the
Hills.
votes.
Kind of funny. All right, we've got to get out. When we come back, some other things the General Assembly did, including cannabis oil. Evil. Back in a minute.
Have a question or comment for the Georgia Gang? Visit their website at myfoxatlanta.com.
We talked about the major bills that were plowed through the General Assembly in this just concluded session. We talked about transportation. We talked about the budget. There were some smaller items, though, that drew a lot of attention. The General Assembly approved prescription use of cannabis oil, not marijuana, but the cannabis oil to help children with seizures. Governor Deal got through his major bill to take over failing schools, creating another
School opportunity district.
And, where does cannabis oil come from? Does it not come from marijuana?
That's right.
And so what is this? Is this semantics? Just this
No,
little
I think it's
game
got to
that
be
we're
prescribed.
playing?
No, it's got to be prescribed.
Oh, I know that it has to be
Where are they gonna
prescribed,
get it
but
from?
you said cannabis oil, not marijuana, but the cannabis oil actually does come from marijuana. Is that
That's
not
right.
correct? Okay, I just wanted to
Well, I
clarify.
want to make it clear that you can't just smoke a joint like Colorado
Oh, I see.
and
It's
ruin
not-
a whole
not
generation of young people.
recreational use.
The General Assembly also finally approved health insurance, requiring health insurance companies to insure children for autism under the age of 6. I guess that's pretty good. Oh, and I guess the white-tailed deer became the official state mammal. What?
Yes. Mammal.
Mammal?
Yes.
Yeah.
Do we have a fish?
No, it's not. It's just the animal.
It was very controversial.
It was.
Was it?
What was the competition?
Well, no, don't you remember that Carolyn?
The fox was a competition.
Yeah,
I
it
was
was a
very upset that the
fox.
fox
The
didn't
fox
get it.
didn't win.
Yeah.
Oh well.
That would be a bulldog.
So it's the white-tailed deer. All right, now let's get serious on this. And I forgot to mention it is Easter Sunday, but
You did
beautiful
mention
day.
it. You did mention
I did
it.
mention it.
Top of the
Okay.
show.
Well, let's get serious because I got to tell you, the results of the Atlanta teachers cheating scandal shocked me. I was just. We had suggested on this program before that there was a possibility these teachers and administrators were overcharged. That the idea of
Possibility?
well, I wasn't quite sure.
A RICO charge?
Yeah.
But I somehow, when Judge Jerry Baxter read the verdicts of guilty, 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 guilty in 11 of the 12
Right.
cases, and then immediately ordered these educators to be handcuffed and jailed.
Exactly right.
Were you as shocked? We haven't discussed
off
this.
your
Alexis,
earrings.
were you shocked?
I was shocked. I was really shocked. And I kept trying to understand. Of course, I didn't sit in the courtroom every day for 5 months or whatever it was to hear all the
7,
arguments.
I think, yeah.
But I just don't
Well, these are
see-
felonies, as we know.
I know they're felonies,
Well,
but
they're
the
serious
RICO
felonies,
charge.
but the
is
RICO
just-
charge is an incredible overreach.
Well, that's right. For our viewers,
But-
this whole thing was
well-
it's organized racketeering, and the point of the prosecutors, and they were successful, is that this was a business. The school system is a business, and it was turned into an organized crime racket, and the
Well-
jury agreed with that.
Well, yeah, that's what we heard. That's exactly right, and that they cheated these children out of an education. I don't know at what point we acknowledge the extent to which the state of Georgia has been a criminal enterprise for generations,
Well,
cheating black
that's-
children out of an education.
you know,
but I
Jeff,
think
I
that the
knew you would get
record
off on that.
demonstrates, shows that it has. For generations, cheated black kids out of a jail. And I don't know of a single white person who's ever gone to jail for that, Philip. Not one.
you know
but
what?
these 11 are.
You're
but
speaking-
part of it is
You know-
their
you know-
well, no, wait a minute. I just wanted to make that one point. But let's look at this a little bit deeper.
Let me make a point, and this was
They-
not good. There was legal segregation of the schools, and whether you like it or not.
It was illegal and unconstitutional
It was ruled-
and wrong
it was.
and criminal.
That
and
is-
it remains criminal.
That's
and we
correct.
still live with the legacy of it. And this is one of those legacies.
And so
Phil.
this is what he wants. He wants reparations. That's what
I'm
the
not
whole
looking
thing-
for
that's what
reparations.
the
I'm
whole
looking
thing-
for us to acknowledge our history and the fact that this has never before happened to anybody, not a legislator, not a governor, not the state of Georgia. The criminal enterprise is the state of Georgia. And I'm going
Well,
to tell you
he
something
didn't
else.
wanna- he didn't
the
wanna talk about the
AJC
cheating.
Let's talk
He didn't
about
wanna
the
talk about
AJC
cheating.
because they're over there patting themselves on the back, right? And they were complicit. They wrote those editorials in the 1950s saying that you can't have integration in the state of Georgia, didn't they?
I understand
They were
where you're coming
complicit
from.
in a system that has resulted in this.
Well,
But
now-
having said that, let's get to the
Let's
to the
return to
brass
reality
tacks.
for a minute.
Let's get to that is the reality.
Yes, it is.
But let's talk about the brass tacks. These folks chose a jury trial.
Yep.
That's true.
And they had the
They
opportunity
were
to
warned.
plead.
They were warned by
They
the
had
judge.
the opportunity to plead just like everybody else.
And the other bunch all got
And I missed
minor probation.
I missed the program following the week after the death of Beverly Hall. But she had an opportunity early on to get on the right side of the story, to go to those folks who clearly were cheating,
Well,
and to
Jeff-
fire them years ago, and we wouldn't be facing this situation today.
Jeff, I think you know this, and I know you consulted with her, and she didn't listen to some of your good advice, but she was part and parcel of this criminal conspiracy. Remember, people came to her and said, there's cheating. She said, I don't want to hear about it. Get out of my office. That
Her
was wrong.
position-
That was wrong.
let me
No,
check.
I agree with you, Phil, but her position all along, and she was wrong about it, well, unfortunately she was wrong about it, was that they don't believe, they being the AJC and the Governor's Office of Student Achievement, don't believe that these children can learn. I know that these children can learn. I know that these test results are real.
We gotta get
That's
out.
what she believed.
We got to get
Right,
out.
I agree with
Alexis,
you.
one last question for you. How much discretion does the judge have in this? I mean, I just can't imagine these teachers are going to be sent away for 20 years. In fact, I thought they would all get off on the racketeering and get
Right, and have the
get
other
convicted
charges.
of other minor
That's what
charges
I-
of false statements and false swearing and that kind of thing.
Well, that's exactly what I thought as well. I hope that the judge does have discretion. In fact, he didn't even have to lock them up on the spot. Everybody was shocked about that. As you know, even when
Because they've been on probation all this time.
right? But when Elaine Boyer pleaded guilty in court, she didn't have to report to jail until after sentencing, and these people haven't even been sentenced yet. So it's just sad.
You
the
know,
whole
it is. It's
situation.
really sad.
But
And
can you sentence
unfortunately,
them
they
to
had a
a
chance to
year?
plead and they didn't. You know, again, it's a matter of how much discretion does the judge have. We know that in the federal system, they just don't have that much discretion in
Right.
sentencing.
That's right.
This isn't
Here,
federal.
this is not federal. And the
Right.
question is, but these are, these are serious convictions
are.
under a RICO
These are
charge.
felonies.
These
Right.
are felonies.
So-
We've got to get
Yeah.
out. When we come back, we're going to talk about two very unrelated subjects. One is Atlanta's free lunch, and the second is the Religious Freedom Act in the General Assembly and elsewhere around the country. Stay with us.
Have a question or comment for the Georgia Gang? Visit their website at myfoxatlanta.com.
In what to me was an amazing story this week, Mayor Kasim Reed of Atlanta announced the free lunch for the people of the city. The streetcar will be free.
I think it's a free ride.
The streetcar will be free. For the rest of
No lunch.
2015,
Just a ride.
you don't have to
sandwich.
pay to ride on the streetcar.
Right.
I thought we were trying to run government as a business. I thought we had revenue projections.
You know, you remember when Home Depot started and Bernie Marcus and the other guy were
Arthur
out in the
Blank.
parking lot handing out dollars to people to come in the store?
Yeah, but the point
It's kind
is
of the same
streetcar, how can it be free? Now, Mayor Reed says it's to build habits and get people used
Yeah.
to it,
Nothing is ever free.
but it's not free.
That's right.
It is not free.
It's free
The
to the
taxpayers of
rider.
Atlanta are going to be paying through the nose for people to ride the streetcar for free.
It's an opportunity to get a critical mass of riders on the streetcar so that it can become revenue producing.
Right.
When?
It takes money to make money, isn't that what they
It's
say?
like Macy's sale. It's like a 30% off sale. There's
Well,
no
what else
difference.
could be free? If the streetcar's free, why not make MARTA free?
Well, you know, I mean, obviously the streets of Atlanta are free because suburbanites use them at will, wantonly, and destroy them and go back, pay no taxes.
You know, the liberals love everything for free. Don't give them any more
That's
ideas.
free.
Yeah, that's true. Well, that's true. Now, what about this fellow who's the head of the SCLC for Georgia, Southern Christian Leadership
Kind
Conference?
of a non-story, isn't
His
it?
name, well, what would possess a man to say that say publicly, a guy in a position like that,
Yeah.
say that black folks ought to arm themselves?
Well, you know, I mean, an
what?
organization with a history of nonviolence.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
a mission
that's-
statement.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you can't do that. You can't do that. But you can certainly understand his frustration with the number of unarmed black men who are being killed
So start
all
shooting?
across
Is
the
that-
country.
is that what's
No,
there?
I'm saying it's not acceptable behavior, or especially from a representative of a non-violent organization. to
I
suggest
agree
people
with
arm
that, but
themselves.
having said that, I have followed his advice.
Uh-oh. Oh, well.
You know, now you're for the Second Amendment. I can't
but-
believe
Oh,
it.
my goodness,
Now
I've
that-
always
But
been
what
for
makes,
the
it
Second
worse, what
Amendment.
makes it worse is not only is that an organization founded on principles of nonviolence, but I can halfway understand if somebody who lives in Vine City or English Avenue says, you know, these are dangerous streets, I'm going to arm myself. I get that.
You know, an awful lot of people have.
Mosteller was arguing that they should arm themselves against the police. That takes it to another different level, doesn't it?
And was immediately removed from his position.
That's
Has been
right.
suspended, and rightfully so.
Okay, now one of the things that's sure to get us going here is the Religious Freedom Restoration Act, RFRA as it's called. It failed in the General Assembly, I suspect, because Governor Deal and Speaker David Ralston in the House said, we're not having this. Josh McCoon from Columbus, the sponsor, says he's going to bring it back next year. But so we don't have to worry about it here in Georgia for the moment, but I think it's a necessary bill. I think we need to have it. But I must say, I was amazed at the firestorm over Indiana last weekend, and then Arkansas, and then all these corporate titans getting involved. Frankly, if I didn't have to pay such a large capital gain, I'd sell my Coca-Cola stock over their position.
I don't know why.
What about your Walmart stock?
I don't know why
That
you're
too?
amazed.
I don't have that.
I don't know why you're amazed. This was a perfect thing for the radical gay lobby and liberals who wanted to
please.
take
And the
shots.
press, and the
Are you
press.
kidding?
And the press take shots at
A radical
Christians.
gay lobby?
Yeah, it has
No,
no
the
problem.
mainstream business community.
Well, you know, I
That's what this
understand
is
that.
about.
I
This is
understand
about
that.
the U.S. Chamber of Commerce,
No,
the
you know,
Georgia Chamber of
I
Commerce.
don't have a problem
Not
with
a
the businesses.
radical lobby.
Can I talk for a second?
No.
I don't have a problem. I don't have a problem with the business community. They're in the business of making money. They don't want to shut out any customer base. So that's
Except florists
well,
and pizzeria owners and bakers.
I'm concerned
No.
about religious liberty for everybody.
Yes.
Whether
Don't you have that in the First Amendment?
You know what? No, wait, you know this.
No,
the
wait,
federal,
wait.
the federal. If I could
No, because the
explain this,
federal
the federal,
courts have taken it
the
away.
federal RFRA law doesn't apply to the states, and so if there's an Amish guy with a beard, for example, that's part of his religion. He needs to be protected. As I tried to explain to you last week, Jeff, these are just gives you an extra protection in court. You may not win, you may not lose.
Well, and by the way,
extra
Phil,
discrimination
Phil,
in the
we
South.
gotta
That's
get out.
all
Phil,
this
don't you
is.
have an Insider Advantage poll that says people still support this?
I do. Yeah, this was interesting. Insider Advantage released one on RFRA, and 55% of Georgians supported it, disapproved 30, undecided
I have
15.
absolutely no idea how you term that question. Did you term it by saying, would you like to have some additional discrimination in the state of Georgia?
No, that was a
your
second-
Freedom of Religion Act?
Would
That
you like
was
to
a-
Is that the way you
would
is that the
like
way
to
you
be able to
phrase the question?
refuse
All right, we have to get
service
out.
Can I
business?
answer you? That was the second question in the poll, and yes, the polling numbers went down. Interestingly, GOP voters approved of the bill.
Of
by
extra
66
discrimination.
They
No.
approved of the,
The
bill.
ability
by,
to-
Can
to-
I
We gotta
finish
get
the
out.
sentence?
We gotta
They
get out.
approved of it by 66% because of the religious protections that even you and
There
you
is
should
one.
enjoy.
There is one reason and one
Wow.
reason only that this bill was proposed, and that is for people like Josh McCoon to be able to give businesses, little businesses, not the Coca-Colas, but little businesses,
Gotta get out.
In their area, an opportunity to say you can't come in
Well,
here because you're gay,
you're
or you
wrong.
can't come in here because
That's-
you're
And I won't
Muslim.
serve you.
That's
Right.
absurd.
And I
That's
won't
wrong.
serve you.
That's absurd.
That,
Right?
that's
And going
wrong.
right back to Jim
All right,
Crow.
we got to get out.
We
when
pine
we
for
come
those
back,
days.
winners and losers, and we'll also try to find time to tell you the next big deal now that the General Assembly is adjourned, and that deal is going to be water. We'll have to keep our eye on Governor Deal. Stay with us.
Time now for the week's winners and losers.
And I will start with you, Jeffrey.
Well, you know, I don't really know who to make winner or loser in this whole school mess. Maybe everybody is a loser. You know, the AJC, I think, considers itself a winner and tried to go and get a Pulitzer Prize based on this story, but they never asked a central question, and that is, why can't the kids learn on their own? Why can't they pass the test on their own? Why do they need pencil erasers in order to produce the kinds of test results that Beverly Hall was demanding? And so it's a sad, sad situation.
Yes, it is.
I wish that these people had pleaded out so that they won't be facing what
Jail.
could be potentially 5 or 10 years in jail under a RICO charge.
Phil, what do you have?
Well, I agree with you, Jeff. I would make, obviously, the Masters Tournament, which is starting this week in Augusta, the great game of golf, and of course a great economic impact on the state, too. I think you have to say, objectively, the winner is the governor, and he got several things that he wanted, including that big transportation bill.
And his school bill.
And the school opportunity bill.
All right, Alexis, what do you have?
I'm going to echo Phil and say the governor, and then I'm going to add the mayor, Kasim Reed. I think they were a good team, and they worked effectively together to get good legislation passed and to prevent some bad legislation from getting passed in the session this year. So congratulations to both of them. And also, Kenny Leon has been selected to direct The Wiz in a live TV performance in December on NBC. So congratulations. He just continues to do great things. And then finally, Dr. John Hall passed this week, and he was a revered and respected pediatrician who served the Atlanta community for more than 40 years.
All right, we have to get out. I think everybody knows where I'm going. It is play ball, the Major League opener tonight. The Braves open on Monday. We can settle down and see what this team's got. Sports Illustrated says the Braves will lose 100 games this year. That seems to be a kind of a general consensus. I'm not buying it because in the spring, it's always time for hope. See you next week on the Georgia Gang.
The opinions expressed in this broadcast are those of the panelists appearing in this program.